So welcome to the New York Real Estate Show. I have a great guest today. Her name is Cristina Kudlock. Cristina and I met in our mastermind called Investor Fuel, and she really blew everybody away. I'd say about 2 years ago when she got up and said that she was operating in Los Angeles and that she had built her business really on SEO, which is search engine optimization. I mean, I think she was bombarded by people, and since then everyone has really come to her as an SEO expert. She recently moved to Arizona, and what a lot of people don't know is that the entire Investor Fuel group hiked up the Echo Trail at Camelback Mountain, and Cristina beat me, two other ex-military gentlemen, and her husband to be the best mountain climber that was in the group for sure. I was a little embarrassed, but Christina's an expert mountain climber. So Cristina, welcome, and why don't you introduce everybody and just give them a rundown on what you do and what's been going on.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. So I am in the Phoenix and Los Angeles markets. I actually started my business about 5 years ago. It was after I had just moved from LA to from Arizona and Phoenix, where I'm born and raised in Phoenix. Started dating my husband long distance, and he was in the LA area. So I decided to move there, and shortly after that is when I started my real estate business. And so for the last 5 years, I've been operating just in LA and building up a wholesale business there. And like Michael said, been using a lot of SEO, and that's one of my pretty much my main strategy for lead generation. And then just recently, with all of the crazy COVID lockdowns, we relocated back to Phoenix. And so now we're doing everything. I'm still in LA doing all of my deals pretty much 100% virtually. And then I've been building up the Phoenix market as well. So
before we even get into SEO, I'm curious as to how that move to Arizona went and how you compare the Phoenix market, which is, I'd say, most known as one of the most competitive and busiest markets, to the LA market that you had worked in before. How do you compare those two?
Honestly, and so LA is a really competitive market as well. So I was like, no, I'm ready for it. Like Phoenix isn't going to be anything compared to LA, right? And that is not true. I've actually found Phoenix to be way more competitive than than Los Angeles. And I mean, I know that's Phoenix is the land of the gurus, right? There's all the gurus are there. And then so they're building up their teams and everything. And so I think there's a combination of that going on. And then the fact that Phoenix is a smaller market than Los Angeles. Like, when we're talking about Los Angeles, I say Los Angeles, but really we do deals all over Southern California. So there's a lot more people. So it's just not as hyper focused. Whereas like in Phoenix here, like Maricopa, honestly, I don't know how many million people are in Maricopa, but it's nothing compared to LA, right? And then you have...
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say how many millions of wholesalers there are in Maricopa.
No, oh God, probably close to 1 million.
Right. It feels like it. I mean, like you said, I probably know 10 gurus who are in the Phoenix area.
For sure. That's where like you have Sean Terry started there. We have Brent Daniels, Pace Morby, like all the
Trang, all the bad people.
Trang, exactly. You got Jamil. Yeah, Keegley's there. Yeah. So there's a lot going on in Phoenix, and I've definitely found it to be more competitive than Los Angeles, for sure.
Do you have to go back to LA for at any time for any of the deals or any of your business?
Not really. No. You know what? I was talking to a seller a few weeks ago, and she was an older lady, and I ended up having to send a notary there because everything online wasn't working right. And then when I was bringing up, okay, now the notary, so that was a notary just to get the purchase and sale, right? And then the notary for for escrow to actually close. Everything was just making her really nervous. She was She had been, the deal had fallen through with several other people before that, and she just had a lot of trust issues. So I told her, I was like, do you want me to go and fly into LA to, to sit you through it and everything? And she was like, yeah, would you? And so like, I was real close to booking a ticket. And then last minute, I kind of talked her out of it because I really didn't want to go to LA for that. Right. But yeah, no, I mean, we're 100% virtual. I have boots on the ground there for anything that actually we need to be in person for. But, most of my deals, and it was funny too, even before I left LA, I was doing probably 70 to 80% of my deals virtually anyway. So it was a really easy transition. And just,
Listen,
putting some systems in place.
I think with traffic, sometimes it might take almost as long to drive from one side of LA to the other as it is to get from Phoenix to LA. Because
exactly.
My daughter lives in LA. We spent like 7 weeks there recently, and sometimes traffic's pretty bad. Getting into the valley during rush hour is no fun.
It absolutely is. And that's kind of why I started doing the whole virtual thing, is because I would drive to these appointments and like half of my day was gone for just driving there and back. And so I was like, let's be a little bit smarter about this. And so I just started. I was drawn to the virtual model because of that initially.
So some of the people that are watching might not even know what the virtual model is. Just to explain, virtual means that you're not actually meeting with the seller face to face. So I am not virtual in New York. I meet every seller face to face, but I'm trying to operate in another state right now virtually. And it's a challenge. Most of it is probably in my head thinking that I need it, but Cristina really adopted that a while ago, even when she was in LA, because of the reasons we just discussed. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about search engine optimization. So why don't you explain what that means? Because I think a lot of people don't know what it means. They don't know what SEO stands for, and they don't understand how it works and how it brings you deals.
Sure. Yeah. And so like you said earlier, it stands for search engine optimization. So it's basically kind of just the process of being on the first page of Google, or as close, the number one spot, preferably when someone enters in specific keywords. So for, the power keyword in our industry would be sell my house fast, and then the city you're in right after that. That's probably the most commonly searched term in our industry. Actually, we buy houses is searched more, but that one doesn't convert as well. That one is more like industry people searching it. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not so much. So there's more searches for that, but sell my home fast, or like other phrases would be like cash home buyers in Phoenix, in Los Angeles, different keywords like that someone would type in for when they're looking for a service such as ours, and then being there on the top spot so that you're the first thing that they see and click on.
So what do you want to happen, assuming you've gotten good SEO and you're in the first couple of Google organic, we should probably explain how the Google page works, because some people don't understand pay-per-click, but the first 4, I think now, and the bottom 4 now are ads. So that's pay-per-click, where you have to pay every time somebody clicks. Everything in the middle is organic that you don't pay for. Now, assuming you've done great SEO, what do you want to happen after somebody clicks on your Google listing?
Okay, after they click on my website, I want them to interact with my website. So I want them to get a feel for who we are, what we can offer them, the benefits to working with us. And basically, I mean, the main thing that you want to do is get them to fill out a form that's on your website, give you their information, what's the address that they want to sell, their phone number, and their email. I try to keep it as simple as possible. I don't even ask for the name. After that, the second form, so once they complete that and they give me those 3 things, it's going to take them to a second form. And then that's going to ask more in detail questions. So it'll ask their name, different questions about why they want to sell and how much they want for their house, things like that. If they don't fill that out, the second form, that's fine. The first one, you still at least got their contact information, and that's the most important part. So we can call them. Or if you don't, honestly, even better than them filling out the form is getting them to call you. All my most motivated leads are always the phone calls, for sure.
So why don't you talk about some of the methods you have used or that other people have used to improve SEO and get your website on higher rated or on the number one, the top
Mhm.
spots on the Google page when someone searches for it.
Sure. Yeah. So there's definitely two parts to that. The first part would be your actual website itself. In SEO terms, that's called your on page. So all of the content that's within your page, and it gets down to like the kinds of headings you're using. Obviously, if you're trying to have people find you for search results like "sell my house fast" in New York, you want to have those words on your page. "Sell my house" or "sell your house fast." It reads a little bit better in New York, and have content within that, within your page. But you really, like, one of the things when people start learning about SEO, they're like, oh, okay, so I need to put these keywords in my site, and they kind of just stuff them in, and they're like trying to just give Google what they want to see, right? But one of the things that I've learned in this little SEO journey I've been on is that you really do want to write for your end customer in mind, as opposed to just like trying to game Google. So however you got to think about the kind of information that people are looking for when they're searching. And it's difficult because there's people that are in all different stages, right? There's some people that are coming, and what they're doing is they're going down the first page and they're dropping their number at every single one. They're not going to read anything on your site. They're motivated. They just want a bunch of people calling them to give them offers, right? So that's one person. And, they probably don't care too much about what your site says, right? But then there's other people that they're very particular who they want to work with, right? They need to like go through tons of different pages, and they want to read about you, they want to see your reviews, they want to see videos, and just you want to give people and these people are my favorite actually kinds of sellers, because usually they're not calling the most amount of people, right? They're just like, they're trying to find that one person who really makes them feel comfortable. Usually it's women who are trying to find just that one person who they know that they can trust, or at least that they feel like they can trust. And that's what's going to motivate them to actually to fill out the form or give you a call. And then you have other people. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just looking for reviews. I mean, the thing that's been most helpful for me is kind of, when you're talking to these people already about their house, one of the last questions I like to ask them is like, hey, what did you type in to find me? And you get some interest. Yeah. You get
great question. I never thought about asking. That's great.
Yeah. You get some interesting stuff that people say. You're like, oh, wow. I never
thought anybody would go about it that way.
Yeah. And so you get some great words that way, or you find some new keywords that way. And then you also ask them, so what was it about my website that made you give me your information or made you call, right? What set me apart from all these other people? And that's really important too, because, and honestly, I would say 6 times out of 10, I hear, oh, I really liked your reviews. You have really good reviews, right? So if that's the case, and that's how most people are feeling, right? Like my website a year ago, I had my reviews at the very bottom of my page, right? So who knows if half of your traffic is even getting down there and seeing that, right? So now, like, put my reviews right at the top of my page. So it's one of the first things you see when you come over. So it just helps to convert people a little bit faster.
What was this? You said there was 2 things. There was the on page, and what was the second thing?
And then the second thing is going to be the off page. So the on page is everything that's actually on your site. Off page is kind of that's when you're getting really geeky about SEO, and you're talking about like backlinks, citations, different kinds of
metadata. Is that also included?
Yeah. So that's a little bit more on page, because the metadata or the meta description and like your meta title, that's all stuff that you do on your actual page. Off page SEO, that's like, it really has to do with building authority in Google's eyes, and how you do that is other websites talking about your website and pointing to your website. So like,
let's talk about that. So that's a backlink, correct?
That's a backlink, right?
Explain more in detail what a backlink is,
Sure.
Why it's important, and how you get them.
Sure. So you have, so if you're on any other site, let's say you're on Facebook, right? And somebody, or let's use a different example. On on my site, right? I have all of this content. There's tons of words that you can read, but then do you know how when you're on a website, sometimes you can click on some words are like underlined and they're clickable, and then they take you, sometimes they'll take you to another page within that same website, but other times they'll take you to an entirely new website. So that's someone giving someone else a backlink. So why that's important is because when Google sees other websites talking about your website, then it's like, okay, other people will know about this. It legitimizes your website a little bit more, and makes it so that you're building authority. So that's one of the scores, like when we're talking about metrics for SEO, your domain authority, or sometimes it's called your domain rating. Different places will call it different things, but it's basically it's a metric from 0 to 100, and 100 obviously being the greatest, and only very, very well-known websites would have a score of like 100. I think Facebook does, YouTube, the Better Business Bureau, right? Stuff that are really well-known and have a lot of authority are naturally just going to have a lot more a higher domain authority, because other places are just naturally talking about it. So that's how you build authority for your website. So when Google sees that your website, if you just have, one little website and nobody else is talking about it, it doesn't hold very much weight in Google's eyes. So it wants to see other websites talking about it. And one of the greatest ways to get that is called citations. So a citation is a kind of backlink that people why they're one of the best kinds to get, especially starting out, is because you can do them very easily. So a citation is basically like, technically Facebook is a citation. When you create your own company page on website and it has facebook.com/whatever your company is, that's one kind of citation. And then to do the same thing at like yelp.com, your business having its own little directory on these other websites that naturally have very high domain authorities. Everyone knows what Yelp is. Everyone knows what Facebook Yellow Pages. And so citations are really nice because they're very easy to get. They're pretty inexpensive. You can go to these different sites, like one I've used before, it's called yext.com, Y-E-X-T, yext.com. And then another one is brightlocal.com. And basically what you do is you go there, you purchase a service that says, I want to purchase however many citations. And what they will do is give you a questionnaire about your entire website. They're going to ask you for your name, your email address, your phone number, your website address, your physical address. They ask you all these questions. It's called your NAP, your name, address, and phone number is kind of what it stands for. And you fill that out. And then what they do is they go and they automatically create all these different listings at tons of different sites for you. So you can very easily get all these backlinks. They're citation backlinks, but you get them and they're at more authoritative sites because they're pointing to yours. So that naturally starts like raising your score.
I just wrote those down. I'm going to look into them. Mm-hmm. You just had a thought though, because the Better Business Bureau, you said, is of super high authority, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can I get a backlink from them? They're constantly trying to sell me stuff in my area. Can I?
Yeah. Do you have, so is your...
I'm A+ rated by my business here.
So that's a backlink for you.
That's already a backlink, you say?
That's already a backlink you have.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, so how long did it take for you when you started using SEO as a marketing tool for you to really see any results from it?
At least a year and a half. Yeah, especially in LA. LA is a very hard market it's just so competitive. But the good news is, it took me a year to get onto the first page of Google. And then probably a half a year to be like number one there. But
all your SEO is self-taught, right? You figured this out yourself, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I started just kind of doing some research, like from Carrot. Carrot has their 3 leads per day program. And so I started with that. And then, the best place to learn about all of this is literally just Googling things. Like when you do a little mini course on SEO, and they have tons of different, ones. I think, what's it called? Hrefs. They have tons of, YouTube videos, right? So that's a great place to go, is YouTube, and just like type in questions, and then you start to get all this like SEO stuff come up, and then, and just Googling stuff, because if you're Googling these questions, right, if you think about we're trying to gain authority with Google. So what better place to go to answer these questions, right, than Google? Like, what does Google think is legit? So just typing out questions, like, I bought a few little like mini courses on SEO, and I wouldn't say there was any particular one that was like the end all be all and taught me everything, but as you go through this, it gets you like asking questions. So then you Google stuff, and then you just start going down all these different rabbit holes for information that has helped. Yeah.
One of my competitors started investing in SEO and paying somebody about $5,000 a month. And they said 18 months also to really see any results from it. They're still spending it.
And it was kind of a blessing for me that starting out, I didn't have a big budget. So I knew that SEO was like, I was on some sort of, not a podcast, but I was listening to something Carrot put out, and Trevor said, he was like, the SEO is the only lead source that actually gets cheaper over time. And I was like, that's cool. Right. And so, yeah. And so I was like, okay, so I did know that was something that like I did want to do. And so, but all the SEO companies, you're right, it was like $3,000 a month. And at the time I just didn't have the budget. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. Right. And so that
also, for the people don't know, so Christina's talking about Investor Carrot, where I think we both have sites. Their website is carrot.com, and the owner, his name is Trevor Mock, and they do a lot of helping. So they really specialize in websites only for realtors and real estate investors. So we each have our site with them, and they do a lot of teaching. So that's where Cristina learned some of her tricks. So do you do any other marketing besides SEO?
Yeah. Yep. I've done cold calling and texting in the past, kind of started trying to get away from that just because I don't enjoy it at all. Right. And so, so now that, SEO, I'm definitely, we talk about being a hunter or a gatherer. I'm definitely more the gatherer. I like things coming to me. I don't like being on the phones all day, stuff like that. Like SEO leads are easier leads. They don't take as much follow-up. They come to you just ready. Right. And I like that. So that's
not much qualification or disqualification when somebody's already reaching out to you. That's the difference. Right. Outbound. I do mostly outbound marketing via mail, calling, texting, RVM. I do some SEO, and I did PPC for a while, which is pay-per-click, which is the top listings on the Google page that are paid for. And those leads were some of my best deals ever. That's inbound marketing with SEO or PPC, and then outbound marketing is all the other methods that we mentioned. Do you want to talk about maybe the best deal you ever got via SEO?
Yeah, SEO. Yeah. What actually it was earlier. Yeah, it was earlier this year. So I had a lady call me. She wanted to sell her house. And you want to know what's funny? I mean, just to preface this, all of my best deals have actually been where I've given them more than they wanted.
Wow.
So yeah, they had, so she called me. She was going to be moving to another state. It was her and her partner. And one of them was having health issues and was needing to retire because of the health issues. So they were going to be relocating to Texas. And they're really sweet ladies. They ended up, so they called me, right? And so this one I actually had my acquisitions manager in LA. She went out and she met with them, and they were really sweet. They were motivated. They wanted to sell. We gave them an offer right there. And she said that she was meeting with one other company, so she was waiting to decide. So I told her, I was like, okay, well, when you let me know when they give you your offer, right? So she had asked for, I believe she wanted $780 for her house. We gave her, and this was like a great deal at $780. So just to try and have her sign right then and there, we did $785. And then she wanted to meet with the other people, right? And so I told her, okay, I was like, okay, well, please don't sign with the other people. Like, just give me the shot, see if I can beat it. And so she called me after and she was like, yeah, they gave me $790. And I was like, if I give you $795, will you sign right now? And she said, yes. And so I said, okay, DocuSigned it over to her. That one, honestly, we didn't even, maybe I should have shopped that one out. I didn't even shop that out. I had a buyer already lined up, and our fee was $85,000.
Wow. What part of LA was that?
That was in Baldwin Park. Baldwin Park. It's just south of the 10 and where the 10 and the 405 intersect. It's just south of the 10 there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. By the way, you should have shopped it out.
Yeah.
You saw what Jason Lewis said at a recent meeting. They do not sell anything. Put it out there. I've gotten crazy numbers on my wholesale deals lately. Crazy.
Yeah.
I made a mistake just the other day. A guy who had bought 8 houses from me, he asked me, what's it going to take? So I threw out a high number. I said 465, and he goes, okay, send me the contract. And then 20 minutes later, I got an offer of 480.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's just, there is no ceiling today when you're wholesaling. It's a great time to be wholesaling. And
it really is. I have one deal I'm in right now. It hasn't closed. We have title issues on it, and it's turning out to be like really, really messy. I'm hoping it closed, but if it does, then that one's $100,000.
Amazing. It's a great time to be wholesaling.
It is.
People think that because prices are high and all these sellers want more, but the truth is plenty of sellers who will take discounted prices.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as we wrap this up, why don't you discuss, assuming someone is new to the business and doesn't really have the budget, like we discussed, to spend a lot of money on SEO.
Yeah.
How much time how much time did you spend when you were growing this, and how much time should somebody expect to be putting in to growing and improving their SEO?
Yeah, it's not, if you're doing it all yourself. So the most time consuming part of all of SEO is the content. It takes, I'm not a quick writer. I get bogged down by that. So in the beginning, that it was time consuming. If you're a better writer than me, then maybe you could do it faster. But I mean, in the beginning, I was spending probably, and it's not necessary, like I'm going down these holes of learning. And like, so, if we were taking that into account, I probably was doing 5 to 8 hours a week.
A week. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Getting going. And then but that was in the beginning. That was for like maybe the first 3 months. And then I kind of stopped a little while. And then a few months later, I would pick it up. So it's, I think if you could devote an hour a day for, a few months, you'd get somewhere. And it really depends on what market you're in, right? We're in really competitive markets, but some of these smaller markets, you could get in there and it's not going to take nearly as much.
Sure.
It's not going to
People say that all the time. The smaller markets are easier. On PPC also, it's easier.
Yeah.
There's less competition. If you're in LA, Phoenix, or New York, it's just a lot more search going on, a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more noise that you have to cut through.
Well, and that's true too, but then there's also, we're going to get more leads from our efforts than some of these smaller markets as well too. You're probably just because of the sheer volume of people, it takes more time for us to actually make a dent in our progress. But when you do, we probably get more leads than most other people in some of the smaller markets too. So.
Have you done any pay-per-click?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm doing pay-per-click right now. I've literally just started kind of messing around with it, but we've gotten some.
So I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but they say if you Google likes when you're doing pay-per-click, and the pay-per-click helps your SEO, and the SEO sort of helps your pay-per-click. They obviously want to make money off you, but they also believe that increases your authority because you're spending money on ads too.
Totally. Well, and anything too, because if you're another thing that how you build authority with Google is it likes when it's sending people to your site and they convert. When Google sees that people are actually getting what they want from being at your site, and it's converting them, they're going to want to put you
Right.
in the top spot. Yeah. So,
Right. Yeah,
so yeah.
Google's really a matchmaker. They want people who are looking for something to find it. They want advertisers who are selling something to sell it. They want that to happen. And then they have all those crazy AI algorithms to figure that out. So yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. If they see people converting, they want to send more people. Facebook too, they both work the same way. They want people who are looking for something to find it.
Right. Because then that's why people keep coming back and using Google, because it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cristina, thank you very, very much. I am still in awe, not just of your mountain climbing ability. And if we ever go back to Scottsdale, and I think we're going back, I'm going to try and beat you, although I don't think I can.
Yeah.
But also of the way you built the business out of SEO, really self-taught, is something that I admire amazingly. I can't even describe how amazing it was. I still remember watching you giving the presentation, looking around going, I cannot believe that this happened. I mean, everyone's looking at each other, just saying the same thing. So I am a big admirer of you and everything, the business you built and how you built it.
Thank you, Michael.
And it's been a pleasure having you. I know you're in the middle of a trip with your husband, driving around in an RV, and I really want to thank you for your time. I think you're sitting in a library. I'm so thankful no one came into the quiet room while we were talking, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're great, Michael. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.